In a small town where everyone knew each other's names and secrets, lived a young man named Ayaan. He was kind, hard-working, and deeply attached to his mother, Amizara. Amizara had raised Ayaan alone after her husband passed away when Ayaan was just 8 years old. She worked in other people's homes, washed dishes, cleaned floors, and stitched clothes late into the night just so her son could study and dream. To the world, she was just an old poor woman. To Ayaan, she was his entire world. Every morning, Amizara would wake before sunrise. She would quietly enter Ayaan's room, place her hand on his forehead, and whisper, "May Allah protect you, my son. May your life be easier than mine." She never complained, never cried in front of him. Even when her hands shook from tiredness, she smiled. Because mothers don't show pain, they hide it in their prayers. Years passed. Ayaan grew into a handsome, educated young man. He got a good job in the city. That's where he met Sarah. Sarah was beautiful, confident, and modern. She spoke English fluently, dressed stylishly, and dreamed of a luxurious life. Ayaan fell deeply in love. He believed love meant happiness. He didn't know love can also bring the hardest tests. Ayaan told his mother about Sarah. Amizara smiled softly. "If she makes you happy, my son, then I am happy too." She didn't ask about Sarah's family. She didn't ask about her wealth. She only cared that her son's heart was at peace. The wedding was simple. No grand hall, no expensive decorations. But Amizara cried that day, not from sadness, but from joy. She held Sarah's hands and said, "From today, you are my daughter. This house is yours." Sarah smiled politely, but her eyes were cold. The first few weeks were quiet. Then slowly, everything changed. Sarah began noticing things she never liked before. The small house, the old furniture, the simple food, and most of all, Amizara. One evening, Sarah said to Ayaan, "Your mother should understand that now you are married. We need privacy." Ayaan felt uncomfortable. "She is old, Sarah. Where will she go?" Sarah replied sharply, "She can stay in her room, but she interferes too much." That night, Amizara heard everything from behind the door. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just went to her prayer mat and prayed longer than usual. One morning, Amizara cooked breakfast. Sarah tasted it and pushed the plate away. "This is too simple. Don't you know how to cook properly?" The words were not loud, but they were sharp like knives. Zara's hands trembled. "I'm sorry, but I'll try again." But Sarah rolled her eyes. "Please, just stay out of the kitchen. I'll handle it." That day, for the first time in years, Amizara cried alone in the bathroom. Her tears fell silently on the floor, not because of hunger, not because of tiredness, but because of disrespect. Ayaan noticed the tension, but he chose silence. He thought, things will get better with time. He didn't realize that silence in injustice is also a form of injustice. Every day, Sarah's words became colder. Every day, Amizara became quieter. The house that once echoed with dua and love, now echoed with silence and pain. One evening, Sarah said the words that changed everything. "Ayaan, I cannot live like this. Your mother is old-fashioned. She embarrasses me in front of my friends. Either she leaves this house, or I will." Ayaan felt his heart stopped. "Sarah, she is my mother," Sarah replied coldly, "and I am your wife. Choose." That night, Ayaan sat alone in the dark. On one side, the woman he loved. On the other, the woman who gave him life. And in the next room, Amizara sat on her prayer mat, tears falling on her hands as she whispered, "Ya Allah, don't let my son suffer because of me." That night, Ayaan could not sleep. The fan kept spinning above him, but his thoughts were heavier than the air in the room. Sarah lay on one side of the bed, her back turned toward him, silent but angry. In the other room, his mother sat alone on her prayer mat, whispering du'as with trembling lips. Two women, one heart, one impossible choice. Before dawn, Amizara made a decision. She folded her old shawl, packed a small bag with 2 pairs of clothes, and placed it near the door. Then she stood quietly outside Ayaan's room. She raised her hand to knock. "But stop. If I speak," she whispered to herself, "my son's heart will break. If I stay silent, my heart will break. Better my heart than his." Tears rolled down her wrinkled cheeks as she turned back to her room. At breakfast, the house was quiet. Sarah sipped her tea coldly. Ayaan looked tired, his eyes red from a sleepless night. Amizara placed the bread on the table and sat quietly in the corner. Finally, Sarah spoke. "Ayaan, have you decided?" The room felt heavy. Ayaan looked at his mother. She lowered her eyes. Then he looked at Sarah. He swallowed hard and said the words that felt like poison in his mouth. "Ami, maybe it would be better if you stay with Kala for some time." The spoon fell from Amizara's hand, not loudly, but the sound echoed in her heart. She forced a smile. "Of course, beta, if that makes you happy." Sarah looked satisfied, but Ayaan felt something inside him break forever. Amizara packed her small bag. No anger, no shouting, no drama. Just silence. At the door, she turned to Ayaan and held his face in her hands. "You are a good son, my child. Life is just testing you. Never think I am angry with you." Her tears fell on his hands. He couldn't speak, because sometimes guilt is so heavy, words cannot carry it. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Ayaan's life looked perfect to the world. A modern wife, a good job, a stylish home, but his heart felt empty. He rarely visited his mother. When he did, he stayed only a few minutes. Sarah always said, "You visit her too much. People will think you are controlled by your mother." Slowly, Ayaan stopped going. And slowly, Zara stopped waiting. In her sister's small house, Zara lived quietly. She cooked for everyone. She cleaned. She smiled. By every night, she sat near the window, looking at the road, the same road her son used to walk. On every sound of footsteps made her heart jump, but it was never a Yaan. She kept his childhood photo near her pillow. Every night she touched it and whispered, "May Allah protect you, my son, even if I cannot see you." Back home, Sarah slowly took full control of Ayaan's life. She chose his friends. She chose his clothes. She even chose how often he could talk to his mother. Whenever Zara's name came up, Sarah's face changed. "Why do you always talk about her? Why do you feel guilty? She lived her life. Now it's our time." Ayaan listened, not because he agreed, but because he was tired of fighting, and every time he stayed silent, his mother's tears became heavier. One rainy evening, Ayaan's phone rang. That was his aunt. Her voice was shaking. "Ayaan, your mother has been sick for days. She doesn't eat properly. She keeps calling your name in her sleep." Ayaan felt his heart stop. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" he asked. His aunt replied sadly, "She didn't let us." She said, "Don't disturb my son. He has his own life." Ayaan sat down, his hands trembling for the first time. He realized his silence had turned into distance, and that distance had turned into pain that night. Ayaan couldn't look at Sarah. He remembered his mother's hands, rough from years of work, warm from years of love. He remembered how she used to wait at the door for him, how she prayed for him even when she was hurt. And now, she was sick, and he was not there. Tears filled his eyes, not loud tears, not dramatic tears, the kind of tears that fall when it's already too late to fix everything. The night after his aunt's call, Ayaan could not close his eyes. Every time he tried to sleep, he saw his mother's face, pale, tired, waiting, not complaining, not blaming, just waiting. Before sunrise, he quietly got out of bed and got ready. Sarah was still sleeping. He looked at her for a moment, then whispered to himself, "Today, I choose to be a son," and he walked out of the house. The road to his aunt's house felt longer than ever. Every turn reminded him of his childhood, his mother holding his hand, buying him sweets, walking beside him under the hot sun. Now he was walking alone, with guilt as his only companion. When he reached the house, the door was half open, and silence lived inside. Zara was lying on a thin mattress in the corner of the room. Her face looked weak, her eyes were closed, her breathing was slow. Ayaan stood there unable to move. This was not the strong woman who once worked all day for him. This was not the mother who smiled even in pain. This was a woman broken by loneliness. He slowly walked closer and whispered, "Ami." Her eyes opened slowly. For a second, she didn't believe it. Then she saw him clearly, and suddenly, tears rolled down her cheeks. "Ayaan, is it really you?" He fell on his knees beside her bed and held her hands. "Ami, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I should have come earlier." She touched his face with trembling fingers. "Don't say sorry, my son. Just seeing you is enough." I had noticed how thin she had become. "Ami, you should have told me you were sick." She smiled weakly. "And make you worried. You have your own life now. A mother should not become a burden." Those words pierced his heart. "You are not a burden. You are my life." But deep inside he knew. He had made her feel like one. His aunt pulled him aside. "Ayaan, your mother cries every night, not because of illness, but because she misses you." Ayaan closed his eyes. Every tear she cried was a tear he had caused. That evening, Ayaan returned home with a heavy heart. Sarah was sitting in the living room scrolling on her phone. "Where were you all day?" she asked without looking up. "With my mother." Sarah's face changed instantly again. "Ayaan, we talked about this." Ayaan took a deep breath. "Sarah, she is sick. She is alone. She needs me." Sarah stood up angrily. "And what about me? What about our life?" Ayaan replied calmly but firmly. "You are my wife, but she is my mother. I cannot erase her from my life." Sarah laughed bitterly. "So now you choose her over me?" Ayaan looked straight into her eyes. "I choose what is right." For the first time, Sarah saw a different Ayaan, not silent, not weak, but strong. That night, Ayaan returned to his mother. He sat beside her bed and held her hand. "Ami, I made mistakes, but I promise you one thing, I will never leave you alone again." Tears rolled down Zara's cheeks. "I never wanted to come between you and your wife, Beta. I just wanted to stay in your heart." Ayaan kissed her hands. "You will always be there." But life was not done testing him. When Sarah found out that Ayaan wanted his mother to live with him again, her anger turned into something darker. She gave him an ultimatum. "If your mother comes back to this house, I will leave." This time, Ayaan knew. The next choice would be even harder than the first. The house felt colder that night. not because of the weather, but because of the words Sarah had spoken. If your mother comes back to this house, I will leave. Those words kept echoing in Ayaan's mind like thunder after lightning. He sat alone in the dark living room, his head in his hands. For the first time in his life he felt truly alone. Ayaan loved Sarah. He had dreamed of building a happy life with her, a modern home, children, smiles. But now every dream stood against one painful truth. A man who forgets his mother slowly forgets himself too. Sarah was already packing a small bag, not because she was leaving, but because she wanted Ayaan to feel the threat. I am serious, Ayaan, she said coldly. I didn't marry you to live with an old woman. Ayaan stood silently for a moment, then said softly, and I didn't stop being a son when I got married. Sarah looked shocked. She had never heard him speak like this before. He went straight to his aunt's house. Zara was sitting near the window, counting her tasbih when she saw Ayaan. Her face lit up like sunlight after rain. You came again today. Ayaan sat beside her. Ami, I want you to come home with me. Her smile slowly faded. I don't want to create problems between you and your wife. Ayaan held her hands. Ami, the problem is not you. The problem is forgetting what a mother means. Tears filled her eyes. I can live anywhere, my son. I just want to stay in your prayers. That evening, Ayaan brought his mother to his house. Sarah was standing in the doorway. Her eyes were full of anger, her lips tight. So you chose her? Sarah said bitterly. Ayaan replied calmly. No, I chose my responsibility. Zara tried to step back. Beta, it's okay. I can go. Ayaan gently stopped her. No, Ami, this is your home. Sarah laughed coldly. Then remember, this is not mine anymore. She took her bag and walked out. The door closed. And with it, Ayaan's married life collapsed. Zara sat on the sofa, shaking. I ruined your life, didn't I? She whispered. Ayaan knelt in front of her. You gave me life, Ami. How could you ever ruin it? She cried on his shoulder, not tears of pain this time, but tears of fear for her son's future. Soon, people started talking. Neighbors whispered. Relatives judged. He let his wife leave for his mother. He couldn't handle his home. He chose emotions over reality. Ayaan heard everything, but he stayed silent, because sometimes doing the right thing means standing alone. One night, Ayaan received a message from Sarah. If you ever want me back, send your mother away again. Ayaan stared at the screen for a long time. Then he deleted the message, not with anger, not with hate, but with acceptance. Life became simple. Ayaan worked during the day, came home in the evening, sat with his mother at night. They ate together, prayed together, healed together. The house that once felt cold slowly filled with peace again. Time moved forward, but Ayaan felt like his life was standing still. The house was quiet now, not the painful silence of tension, but the soft silence of two hearts healing together. Still, every quiet moment reminded him of what he had lost: a wife, a dream, a future he once imagined. And yet, in front of him sat the woman who gave him everything. His mother. Even though Ayaan never blamed her, Zara blamed herself every single day. She cooked his favorite meals. She cleaned the house. She woke him for work like she used to when he was a child. But sometimes, in the middle of all that love, her eyes filled with sadness. One night, Ayaan found her crying silently in her room. Ami, why are you crying? He asked softly. She wiped her tears quickly. Nothing, Beta, just old memories. But Ayaan knew the truth. Those tears were not from memories. They were from guilt. Ayaan started working longer hours, not because he loved work, but because he didn't want to sit alone with his thoughts. Every road reminded him of Sarah. Every couple he saw reminded him of his broken marriage. But every night when he came home and saw his mother waiting with warm food and warm prayers, he knew he had chosen love that never leaves. One evening, Ayaan's cousin came to visit. They sat in the living room drinking tea. Suddenly, his cousin said quietly, Ayaan, I saw Sarah yesterday. Ayaan's heart skipped a beat. How is she? His cousin hesitated. She's getting married again, next month. The words hit him like a storm. For a moment he couldn't breathe, not because he still wanted her, but because a chapter of his life was truly ending. That night, Ayaan sat alone on the rooftop. The sky was full of stars, but his eyes were full of tears. Not tears of love, but tears of acceptance. Zara noticed his silence. She sat beside him and placed her hand on his head. Beta, if I am the reason your life became like this, I am ready to leave. Ayaan held her hand tightly. Ami, don't ever say that again. If Allah took something from me, He gave me peace instead. She looked at him with tearful eyes. You are stronger than I ever imagined. Months passed. Ayaan focused on work and caring for his mother. One day, his company announced layoffs. Ayaan lost his job. For a moment fear returned to his life. No wife, no job, only responsibility. He came home and sat silently. Zara noticed his face. What happened, Beta? He tried to smile. Nothing, Ami. Just tired. But she knew. That night, she prayed longer than ever. Allah, He chose me over the world. Now you choose him. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. Ayaan got a call from his old boss. Ayaan, I heard about your situation. I have started a small business. I need someone honest like you. Ayaan couldn't believe it. It wasn't just a job. It was hope. When he told his mother, she raised her hands to the sky and cried, "Thank you, Allah. You never forget a mother's tears." Years later, Ayaan became successful again. Not rich in money, but rich in peace. His mother grew older, but her smile grew brighter. One evening, Ayaan sat beside her and said, "Ami, do you regret anything in life?" She smiled softly. "Only one thing, that I cried when I should have trusted Allah, because every tear I shed, He turned it into a blessing for you." Ayaan held her hand. "And every tear of yours taught me what true love really means." Life teaches many lessons, but the hardest lesson is this: a wife's words can change a man's world, but a mother's tears can change his destiny, because a mother's heart is not just full of love, it is full of prayers that even fate cannot ignore.